Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, tell me when you're ready, okay? And I'll hit unmute. Okay. Oh, no problem. Just point at me when you're ready for me to start, okay? Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming down today to VPD headquarters. I expect that today will be our last daily update of the week. For tomorrow and through the weekend, we don't anticipate having to provide a daily update. Of course, if there's a significant development in this investigation or if there's information that we feel the need to call you in for, we'll certainly do that. But today should be the last of our daily briefings. I'm going to give you a brief update on the status of the investigation. Our briefing will be briefer than it has been on previous days. When I'm done giving you our daily update about the status of the investigation, I've brought some guests who will speak to you about the plans and preparations in advance of Sunday's BMO Vancouver Marathon. First, I will provide an update on the status of the surviving victims. 4 people are currently in critical condition and 2 people are in serious condition in hospital. That's a change from yesterday where we had 5 people who were listed in critical condition. So that is a change from yesterday, and that means that one person's medical status has improved slightly. That obviously gives us hope for those victims, those surviving victims who are still in hospital. That said, we still have 13 people who are being treated in hospital. All of the streets have now reopened and traffic is flowing. And again, we really thank everybody for their patience and understanding, particularly people who live in the neighborhood, particularly people who have businesses in the neighborhood that were impacted by the rather large closures that were there. Thank you. We appreciate your patience. All of the streets are now open. Our community support center remains open, and we're going to keep that community support center open throughout the weekend. In fact, we've extended the hours for that community support center. Today, tomorrow, and through the weekend, the hours of operation will be 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's been a tremendously positive reception from the community. Approximately 150 people visited the first day and a half that that community support center was open. We actually had a lineup of people who were waiting for it to open yesterday morning. Our community support center, it's located on East 43rd at St. George Street. We have Vancouver police officers and victim services unit professionals, civilian professional victim services workers who are there. They're there to provide information. They're there to provide support. They're there if somebody just wants to come and have somebody to talk to. There's chairs set out where people can sit. There's information. There's some refreshments, and there's some snacks there. So we invite people to come by if they want to speak to a VPD officer, if they want to speak to a professional victim support worker to get information support, or just to have somebody to talk to. We'll be there throughout the weekend. We're continuing to learn about witnesses through stories in the media. And as time passes, more people are making the decision to come forward to share their first-person experiences. Many of these people are going to the media, but are not yet going to the police. Although we've identified more than 200 witnesses, we still ask people to come forward if they are a witness and they haven't yet spoken to our investigators. And we know there were a lot of people present when this vehicle attack occurred. And there may be people who left who believe that there are other witnesses there and they don't need to come forward. What I want to implore is that if you're a witness, if you were there and you haven't yet come forward, what you have to say is incredibly important to us. We want to speak to you, and we invite you to come forward to share your first person account of what happened. Please don't just assume that because there were a lot of people there and a lot of witnesses have already come forward that your information is not important. It is, and we really would like to speak to you. The homicide tip line, Vancouver Police homicide tip line is 604-717-2500. Please give that number a phone call to speak to an investigator. If you're not ready to make a phone call, consider dropping by the community support center that we have set up, where we have VPD officers. You can come by, speak to an officer, and that officer can take some information and help you get in touch with one of our homicide investigators. Again, very important. Likewise with video, we've been asking all week for people to submit first-person video from the night of the attack, from Saturday night when this attack occurred. We've seen lots of video being posted online, and we've had a significant number of submissions to the video portal that we've set up at vpd.ca. A lot of those submissions, however, are people who have not submitted first-person video. We've had some submissions where people are submitting video that they've seen posted on the internet, or sometimes recording video off the internet or off the TV with their phones and submitting it. And that's all with really, really good intentions, and we really appreciate that. We also need people who have first-person video or photos on their devices, on their phones, to come forward and share that information with us. So they can go to vpd.ca. There's a portal there right on our homepage that will guide you through the steps that you need to submit that video. Likewise, for those who don't go to traditional websites, you can go to our socials. We have QR codes posted on Instagram, on TikTok, and on X, where you can get a link that'll take you directly to that portal. It's really important information. And again, please don't just assume because there were so many people there and there's so many witnesses that the information that you have is not important. It really is, and it's vital that we speak to you so that we can complete this investigation. I'm going to give you some follow-up information from yesterday. There were some questions asked yesterday that we've been able to obtain some additional information on. One of them, I think, was asked from you about, Canadian Press, correct? Yeah, Brenna, sorry, about the status of the suspect and whether he had a driver's license. I can confirm that he did. The suspect in this case, the person who was arrested and is in custody, did have a valid British Columbia driver's license at the time of the attack. Some additional information about our mental health unit I can provide you. Our mental health unit, the Vancouver Police Department's mental health unit, is a dedicated unit within our investigations division. It consists of 21 constables and 2 sergeants who are overseen by a staff sergeant and an inspector who report up a chain to the deputy chief in charge of our investigations division. If anybody wants any additional information about mental health services that the Vancouver Police Department provides, or partnerships that the Vancouver Police Department is involved in, if you go to vpd.ca and you search just the 2 words, mental health, it'll take you directly to the page that you need that will give you a lot of information about various programs that we have. Assertive Outreach Team, CAR 87, the ACT team, and other resources that will explain partnerships that we have with various health partners in the community. Specifically with regards to our CAR 87 program, we have 8 Vancouver police officers who work in the CAR 87 program who are partnered with nurses from Vancouver Coastal Health. We have 2 cars that deploy every day, 7 days a week. One from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., that's a day shift. The second one from noon to 11:15 p.m., that's an afternoon shift. CAR 87, plain-clothed VPD officers who work with mental health nurses to respond to calls in the community. For specific information about the number of nurses who participate in the CAR 87 program, I'm going to ask you to go to Vancouver Coastal Health for that information, because my understanding is there's a pool of nurses who do participate in that program. So I'm just not able to say how many total nurses participate in that program. But we have 8 police officers who deploy in 2 cars a day, 7 days a week. That concludes my investigative updates. We're going to provide you with a briefing on plans, safety plans and deployment plans related to the marathon that's taking place on Sunday. I have some guests here. They're going to come up on stage. Once they're done, we'll do a Q&A. You can ask them questions, you can ask me questions, and we'll try to answer any questions that you have. The first speaker is going to be, I'll give you everybody's name now, so they don't have to give it to you when they come up. First speaker is Inspector Jeff Newman, Jeff with a J. Newman is N-E-U-M-A-N. The inspector in charge of the Vancouver Police Department's Emergency Operations and Planning Section. Our second guest is going to be Eric Chenet. Eric with a C. Last name is C-H-E-N-E with accent aigu on both E's for our American visitors. Eric is the executive director of the Vancouver International Marathon Society. We also have Taryn Scollard, T-A-R-Y-N-S-C-O-L-L-A-R-D, Deputy Manager of Engineering Services with the City of Vancouver. Inspector Newman first. If our two other guests want to come up on the podium here, I'll facilitate a Q&A when you're done. Thank you.
Hello. Been introduced already, but yes, Inspector Jeff Newman of the Emergency Operational Planning Section. So this weekend, we're preparing to welcome thousands of runners, spectators, volunteers to the city of Vancouver. It's going to be proved to another busy weekend this weekend with the marathon, as well as we have additional 12 protests and 10 special events. All of this requires 400 spectators. Their duties or their responsibilities will be to secure heavy vehicle barriers, light vehicle barriers, as well as various traffic closures for the entire marathon routes between the half marathon and the full marathon route. This strategic deployment is an increase from last year, but it's not as a result of the tragic incident of what happened Saturday. It's also not the result of a specific threat to this event. It's part of our ongoing process of doing risk assessments continuously up until the event. And for this, we want to ensure public safety, and we want to mitigate any risks that we can for this event. In addition to the members listed, there will also be specialized units. In 2022, we had a suspicious circumstance for a suspicious device, and since then, we've always deployed emergency response personnel, our ERT personnel, or our bomb techs for such events. We've been working very closely with the city, the event organizer, other emergency personnel, Vancouver Fire Rescue to make this a seamless coordination for the marathon this weekend. For all of us, public safety is and always will be our priority. To the public, we ask for your support in just listening to police direction as well as volunteers for anything to do with the route. We encourage everybody to plan ahead, arrive early, and be aware of the traffic closures. More importantly for us, you can be our eyes and ears. If you see something that doesn't seem right, let us know. So if you see something, say something. Our officers are ready to assist. To the runners and guests that are in Vancouver right now for the marathon already, we are proud to host you as a host city. And on behalf of the Vancouver Police Department and our public safety partners, we look forward to a successful and safe marathon weekend this weekend. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that our hearts go out to everyone who's impacted by the tragedy that took place at the Lapu Lapu Festival. For those who lost family members and for those that are still recovering, we all share in their grief. Safety of our participants is our top priority. Just know that we take security for the event very seriously. We work closely with the City of Vancouver and the VPD to implement all road closures to ensure it is a safe event for everyone involved. We are looking forward to welcoming over 25,000 guests to our annual running of the BMO Vancouver Marathon. We know our participants have worked hard to get to this day and wish everyone a safe and healthy run from the start to the finish. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just moderate a Q&A here. If you have questions for any of our guests, you can ask them. And if possible, direct your question towards a specific person. That would be helpful. Any questions in the room? Go ahead.
Yeah, for yourself or,
Okay.
or the VPD. So we spoke with the CEO of the BC division of the Canadian Mental Health Association, who expressed that there's a real concern among people suffering from mental illness that there could kind of be like reaction in the community. And we wonder what you can say about that, and also have you seen an uptick in calls, or is that something that you're expecting?
So firstly, most people who live with a mental illness or mental health issues don't ever come into contact with the police. And that's really important to understand, because there are conversations happening right now about mental health, and those conversations include things like institutionalization and forced care. The reality is, a lot of people, most people who live in our community with mental health issues, never have contact with the police. This is an incident where there is a person, and we've been clear on that, there's a person who's been arrested and charged, who has had previous interactions with police and mental health professionals related to mental health issues, and that has certainly stirred a discussion about mental health issues. But absolutely, we want to be clear, the vast majority of people don't ever come into contact with police. The second part of your question, I don't have data. We are 6 days into this investigation following this horrible tragedy, this horrible mass murder. That's certainly something that we may be able to speak to, but I can't speak to it with any degree of confidence or accuracy at this point. Additional questions in the room? Okay, on the phone, star one on the phone. Go ahead. Can you, because we can't see you and you're not in the room, can you go with your name and your agency, please?
Hi, it's Liam Britton with CDC Vancouver.
Hey, Liam.
You just mentioned that you mentioned there won't be changes to the weekend marathon due to the tragedy. It's kind of like a continuous evaluation thing. Will events already planned see changes due to the tragedy over last weekend, or future events? Does it depend? Can you speak a bit to that?
Yeah, just for everybody who's in the room or anybody who's watching online, the question is, while there aren't specific changes to the plan that's in place for this Sunday's marathon, the question is, will there be future changes contemplated for other events that are already in the planning process? Defer that to Inspector Newman.
I'm aware that the mayor, as well as the premier, and as well as my chief, have ordered reviews, and those reviews are ongoing, or they will be initiated. But prior to that, as we await, I asked my section to reevaluate all the upcoming events to make sure that they are as safe as they can, as we can mitigate whatever risk we can. So in terms of the marathon, yes, we have applied additional measures from this year compared to last year. Comparatively, last year we also increased from 2023. Again, as part of our ongoing risk assessment, where we're at, how do we make things better, how do we make it as safe as possible, as well as managing these worldwide events, as being a big partner in the big city.
Do you have a follow-up, Liam?
Yeah, just wondering if for police officers who are on scene for these large events, is there like a standard, kind of like guidance document, or like a Bible, for lack of a better term, about kind of what to be looking out for at this particular event, like kind of like an event by event thing, or is it kind of is it just sort of standard guidance for all events for those officers that are deployed to a special event?
In terms of our officers are trained to identify any sort of suspicious behavior, any sort of suspicious packages. They would report that through their chain of command to the commanders. There's 2 commanders assigned to this event this weekend, and then process that. There's also really good sharing with the volunteers. I'd have to turn that over to Eric to answer that, but I do believe that all the volunteers are also provided minimal training in terms of also identifying suspicious packages, and that's what happened in 2022. In 2022, it was a volunteer that identified that suspicious package, reported it. If they see something, say something, they report it to the police back in the day, and our explosive techs were able to go up there and identify it as a non-incendiary device.
Okay, next person on the line. Don't go anywhere, sir. It's probably for you. Next person on the line, star one. Nobody else on the line. Okay, anybody else in the room? Kevin? No? Okay. All right, thanks very much, everybody. Again, we won't be having a daily briefing tomorrow unless there's a significant development in this investigation. However, we are committed to keeping you fully updated on the progress of the investigation, and if there is a significant development, we'll absolutely call you back to make sure you're fully informed. Thank you, everyone.